Speak up, I can't hear you.
The DJ, so you think you can DJ at Laurier Collegiate today, and I don't know how many kids were in that gym, but were in that auditorium, probably 1,000 or whatever they hold. It was almost full, and Laurier came second.
Yes.
No, I've written it all
Yeah,
down.
Laurier did.
Yeah, and Brampton were the winners, number one. Yeah, they were really good, and Pope John Paul was really good too, really good. Don't you think? They brought in, I guess their mascot is a wolf, so they had somebody dressed up. Pretty cool, pretty cool. So welcome officers for coming today back here, and to everyone else who have lots of some new people here today. And welcome Jerry Chadwick, our school trustee for Ward 2, and and Kyle from Startertown Center. Thank you for coming. And someone here, I can't remember your name, sir, for Kevin from West Rouge. Hello. Hello. So we'll start here and ask everybody to, we'll go around the room and ask everyone to say who they represent and give their name, please. And please fill out the guest list when it comes around. Thank you.
All right, so I'll start. I'm the unit commander here, and I just want to film. Obviously, our super welcome. See you. Welcome. I'll pass it on.
I'm Donna Wood. I'm the precursor for Swedish. Here on the grading and measures for CPLC.
This is Celia Galvin representing the Stowe Boulevard area and St. Paul.
Sandra Heffman from Hospital for Record and Travel.
Hello, James.
I'm Rob Cairns, representing Scarborough Park. Mike Marks, Glendale Park.
Tracy's Mike from the Division on Finance. Jerry Chadwick, Preston, Ward 22, Scarborough East.
Hunter running for re-election for I'm Tiff Blair.
And I'm security manager at Scarborough. Oh, Peter.
I'm Peter, and I think I still live here.
And I'm Marilyn Hodge. I represent CCRA. All right.
All right.
Times the Oh, it was
Sorry, did you guys introduce yourselves?
Tracy.
I would like to introduce myself just quickly. I'm Kirk Patrick. The young ladies here said he didn't introduce himself. I'm Kirk Patrick. Excellent. There's everybody. Stealth mode. Yeah, I was. Yeah.
Also known as Pat. Okay, we'll start with the crime statistics, which I do on a monthly basis, and we'll start with, for those of you who haven't been here before, what I do when I do these crime maps is I divide the division into patrol areas, which are designated areas that officers are assigned to or scout cars are assigned to, and just so that everybody can get an idea of where their neighborhood might be. So I'm not going to go through all of them, but basically 431 to 435 are the divisions, and the major streets, as you can see on this map, on the legend, or sorry, on the titles, tells you what the defining borders are. And these are the collisions that have taken place in our division for the month of April. Now, I want to make it very clear that these don't include collisions that would be considered non-reportable, that would go to the collision reporting centers. These are simply ones that would have been investigated here out of 43 Division by traffic officers or primary response officers. And I did want to say that last month's map was a little bit more scary than this. We had all that ice, and it's really nice to see that actually it is coming down. And just, I ran a little percentage the other day, and out of all our collisions year to date to the end of April, we're looking at about 62% of them are property damage accidents. So I don't have the percentage for the personal injury accidents, but property damage, that could be anything that's fairly minor, over $1,000, ranging up to thousands of dollars, as long as there are no personal injuries involved. Now, before I move on, if anybody has any questions about this map, or if the superintendent would like to comment on it.
Well, I mean, I state the obvious when you look at the clusters, they're on the main roads, so it speaks to people being in a hurry, people perhaps not paying attention, and we get these clusters of collisions. And again, when you look at the clusters, you'll see them around intersections. They're basically where people need to pay attention, and frankly, need to slow down. So obey the speed limits and be alert to your surroundings, drive defensively, and we hope we see this be reduced even further.
One way that we're trying to combat some of the underlying issues that contribute to accidents, including aggressive driving and speeding, is we've now deployed our speed board out into the field. It records dates, times, and speeds of cars, so that we can then use that information to put people such as Constable Chapadal is there at the right place at the right time to address concerns. Obviously, we have limited resources, as everyone does, and it better allows us to utilize that. We're actually utilizing the services of our auxiliary corps to move that around and monitor that. So as planes come in, we move from site to site. So if you encourage your communities to take that back, and anyone who believes that they have a problem that we can utilize the speed board, we can try to reduce some of these accidents by one resource.
Just to close off, if I could, last year we had 6 fatalities in the division, and they didn't start until July. So even though previous months last looked worse, in the winter time, the last 2 years, we haven't had any fatalities. It's when the summer comes, when the fine weather comes, people start putting pedal to the metal, and everybody's in that hurry, and perhaps not concentrating on what they're doing, because they're in that summer mode in their mind. That's when we see people get killed in the streets. So people are out there.
Okay, we'll move on. These are the break and enters that occurred by patrol area in the month of April. And as you can see, they're pretty well scattered all over. I am happy to say that this cluster that you see down here in 434's area, our major crime did make an arrest of 2 young individuals for many of those. And other than that, I did want to say there is a trend right now. There are a lot of commercial entries going on across the city, right into Durham region, York region. And we are combating those, and there's a lot of information being exchanged between all the different police services as to, solving those crimes. Anybody have any questions or?
If I could just add one thing, we find that the MO for many of these are right at the front door of the homes for residential break-ins. You'll see somebody knocking on the door repeatedly, ringing the bell, knocking, ringing the bell. When people don't answer, that's usually where they throw their shoulder to the door and force the door. I offer that up only because I think we've spoken about this at many other past meetings. If you see something just doesn't look right, report it. It's okay. We'd rather deal with a suspicious incident like that than the aftermath of breaking in, where sometimes it's not valuable things, but very sentimental things were taken, and you know, we certainly don't want people to part with those things. So it's important that your communities have that information and report that suspicious behavior to us in a timely fashion.
And I just wanted to add to that, I think it was last month, it was the month before, we got some amazing video from a home camera of an actual break-in taking place. And we hope to identify those individuals from those great images that we got. All right, robberies. Here we're looking at robberies for the month of April. To that, really, considering what it looked like last year at this time. And when we get to the statistics, you'll see that there's been quite a difference over last year in our robberies. For the most part, they're street robberies. A lot of the times, the kids, the cell phones, that kind of thing. We did, however, have one hold-up at a bank in the month of April. And I believe the hold-up squad, I think they made the arrest in that, didn't they? Yeah, I think so too. So, would you like to comment on the robberies, sir?
The only thing I'd like to say, and I preface this by saying we live in a great country, we live in a country that enjoys freedoms, so people need to do what they can do what they want. However, there are large groups in our community of a belief that is a little different than perhaps what we traditionally look at in the Western world, where if I would ask a young lady to marry me, we will get engaged and I'll give her a ring. In some communities, that's a necklace, and that community is well represented in our community. And unfortunately, when that necklace is worn as a piece of outer jewelry, so outside of the clothing, they can be victimized. And we are heading into the time of the year when the temperatures rise and we don't wear those heavy winter coats. So the risk of that starts to increase around this time of the year. So we do need to be aware of that and be aware of our surroundings, and if possible, perhaps be careful when we wear that type of jewelry out there. We need to protect ourselves and take steps to protect ourselves. And I do preface that by we live in a great country and a free country. And certainly don't want people to live in fear, but be aware.
All right, and then lastly, we're looking at auto thefts that have been taking place. And for the most part, there's no real pattern other than you can see up in the top corner there. That's a frequently traveled area. There's a lot of plazas in that area, and there's a lot of people that come from across the city. So obviously, we like to call it a target-rich area for some of these criminals, and that's why you will occasionally see a bit of a blip up in that area.
Yes?
I just wondering, in the last comment, if you could talk a bit about the response times, because you mentioned like people at the door or the necklace robberies. What are, I know you categorize it by different levels of emergency, but when you look at the map, you've got a lot of lots covered. So what are the
We have target times. I'm not sure we could ever guarantee a time frame of response because we don't know our availability. We're somewhat like an emergency room at a hospital. It very much depends on the level of the emergency. It very much depends on what we're facing at that time, what the availability and response times are. But certainly we do have targets, and if there's a crime in progress, that gets a higher priority number than, for example, if I was an officer in the street and I said to the dispatcher I wanted to go in for lunch, or I had to go serve documents on somebody, that's a lower priority call. So even if I was assigned to either my lunch or a lower priority call, and the higher priority call came in, we are redirected to that higher priority call. Response times is very, very difficult to nail down and impossible for us to say that we guarantee we'll be there in X amount of time. However, that said, we have given you examples of as recently as the last CPLC where somebody called in, somebody was going up the driveways of houses and checking cars. Somebody phoned that in, we had an officer right there. So they were able to intercept those people. So there are occasions when we're right there. We just need to be made aware by the public.
Most often you meet, like, I'm just trying to say, is that most of the time you meet the target that you're supposed to be there, or?
I think that there are occasions when we don't, absolutely. Unfortunately, the burden on the taxpayer is so high for us because you have to have so many more officers for us to give you a guarantee. However, I think the vast majority of the time we meet our targets in response. Yes.
Because it's a huge division.
Yes, no, absolutely, absolutely.
And you're quite right, and that's exactly why we put as much effort and time into preventing these crimes from happening in the first instance and trying to educate as many people as possible. We just simply wouldn't be able to keep up with people that didn't participate, in that, in protecting themselves and their communities. It's a shared responsibility. It really, really is in today's day and age. And, it's a great point you bring.
We'll move on to our major crime indicators. And, oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to change the date. This actually is for April, my apologies. I was doing this morning and I didn't notice I hadn't done that. However, these are valid numbers. Basically what we're looking at is sexual assaults are up. However, they're down from last month. Assaults are also down. Our robberies, last month we were down 32% year to date. This month we're down 44% year to date. And these figures are reflected as of today. So we're doing really well in battling the crime and, the chain grabs, all of those things. We're very, very concerned about that. Now, the break-and enters, they're up. However, as I said before, there is a trend across the GTA. And I know that there's many, all the different police forces are working on it, or I should say the police services are working on it. So I'm hoping that we're going to see an increase, hopefully by about June sometime. So I'm not promising, but we're going to try. And then as far as auto thefts go, we're up 2%, which isn't really much of a variance, really. We're looking at, what, one car. And then as far as theft overs go, nothing. It's the same as it was last year at this time. But all in all, we're looking at a decrease of 3% over what we had last year at this time. So last year we were on a downward trend. We're still on a downward trend overall. So.
And the two homicides which are a concern to us, but one that we mentioned before was an emotionally disturbed person who decided to take his own life, and doing so took the life of somebody else that shared the residence with him, his own father. Then we did have, sadly, a fight at a bar where somebody lost their lives. We still have not, which is significant, seen a homicide related to gang activity in our region since October 2012. So we have seen some tremendous results in our region in combating that sort of organized crime.
Okay. And just before I finish up, there's just two crime trends I wanted to mention that are going on. You've heard me talk about the Eastern European organized crime rings that target the elderly people and will grab their gold jewelry and then replace it with a fake piece of jewelry. We are seeing an increase of those, of course, with the warm weather, and it's easier to see people wearing these things. And the other thing we're seeing right now, I know I've spoken about this before, are furnace people. People going door to door, and they're trying to sell you a furnace. And we just had another report the other day. Fortunately, the gentleman called us. He thought they were a little suspicious. He said, no, I'm not interested. And he called us, and we were able to identify some of these people. And if you have people coming to your door, and they are, they'll wear the insignia that says they're from a heating company, they'll try to sell you a furnace, or they'll get you to sign for something, and next thing you know, you're in for thousands and thousands of dollars. So If they are from one of these companies, they should not have a problem with waiting outside the door while you make a phone call to Enbridge or whoever it happens to be, a number that you find, not a number they give you. So, unless there's any questions, I'm going to wrap it up here. Yes?
You just jogged my memory about the furnace thing. There was somebody who came up to our door just last week and had been obviously going up and down the street. And because now with the high efficiency furnaces, people have this pipe that is outside and it's very obvious. And so this gentleman, and he sounded very legitimate, he looked legitimate and so on, but we spoke to him at the door, was talking about how he was just checking the neighborhood and he could see that we did not have one of those pipes, so obviously we must have an older furnace or a lower efficiency furnace, and that he would just like to see our furnace fall. Of course, we didn't let him have the look, but I guess that's the kind of thing we have to watch
That
for.
actually is one of the ploys they use. However, if, one of the heating companies has sent someone out, they will usually give you a call, and they'll make an appointment with you. So, he might have been quite legitimate, but who knows?
Just because they're legitimate doesn't mean they're trustworthy. They're working for a company, but it doesn't mean that they're not people with the inclination to lift what they can lift if they're in your house. So just always need to be alert and careful.
One of the most common ruses for furnace salesmen is the fact that they'll tell you that your water heater or your furnace is not up to code. And the current regulations have changed, which makes your heater or water heater or your furnace non-compliant. I can assure you the city of Toronto will contact you if something in your residence is out of code and they become aware of it. So, or you can call them to turn around and obtain the legalities of that. Just be very, very careful. The soliciting from these people is extremely aggressive. I actually had a guy come to my door, tell me the exact same thing, and I told him he could leave my property anytime, and he told me that I had to sign a form saying that I was denying him telling me this. Well, I can imagine what I'm signing. I said, I'll sign a form, but you're not going to like the form I signed. So get off my property. So just, and you know what, it doesn't hurt to call us at that point either. If you feel something's being overly aggressive, call us. We'll come out and we'll certainly deal with the situation.
And there is a play on that very quickly about the code. And there's the kernel truth of that, which is any new install must have white ABS. But the black stuff is perfectly fine for an old one. So they'll play on that. It wouldn't be up to code if you put a new furnace in. So they just take that little twist on it.
And that's this thing that comes outside of your house.
The piping going to a water heater, if you had a water heater, let's say that was 10 years old or a furnace, the vent would most likely be in a black ABS pipe. When a new furnace went in, to bring it up to code, it would have to be replaced with the white stuff, which is almost identical in composition. It's not a big deal, but they do that twist on it and say, well, you're not up to code, but you're not, but there's an exemption or a grandfather clause for that with the older furnace.
I appreciated you using the technical term thing to Joey. I knew
You're the whatchamacallit, you know.
My family
So right where the doohickey and the whatchamacallit is going up.
Thank you. Here's my little presentation. Thank you.
Oh, you have something to say?
Yeah. Just adding on to what Tracy was talking about the commercial break and enters. The auxiliaries have been working very hard on a program going around to all the businesses. Since the last meeting, they've been to 127 businesses just in the division. They obviously the issues that would separate, let's say, a hair salon to a convenience store that's open later at night vary. So they're judging each business on what it is and offering tips with regards to crime prevention that they can, and making them aware of what's been happening not only in the city or in the division, but in the city with these commercial entries. So that's going really well, and that's going to continue on through the summer. And again, with the auxiliaries and the CPLC, just at the end of the month, we're going to be having our bike safety day or bike rodeo. There are a couple of businesses that have agreed to come in and look at bike helmets and bike safety as far as tightening chains, air in the tires, that kind of thing. So please grab the flyers. It will be on our social media as well and at the open house to get all the kids out. It's free. There'll be lots of prizes and goodies and all that kind of thing. So please get that back out.
Julie, I was gonna bring this up later, but since we're on the issue of bike safety, is there anything we can do in the division to increase the awareness, especially with adults in bike safety? The stuff going on out there is insane. Adults on sidewalks, adults in corners, adults everywhere. It's getting to be almost a safety hazard in the morning, southern ones there. Sorry, not there.
Yes, I can.
If I've been run down once this week, I've been run down 3 times, it's getting, and I'm here, yeah.
We actually are, we have 12 of our own bikes right now being fixed. Actually, they're returning to the station. I expect to see the truck running there any moment now. Many of our bikes have to go out for service. We find that the officers that are out on the bikes themselves are in the best position to stop these cyclists and have the conversation. I can tell you as well that there's a number of crime, not really crime prevention, but education pieces that are available on the Toronto Police website as well regarding bike safety and some of the rules of the road. Obviously, it's one of those things where the intersections become our biggest problems. It seems like where you get pedestrians and cyclists mixing.
Well, it's that, and it's adults on avenues like Morningside and Lawrence who say the road's too busy to be on the road because they're concerned for safety, but they're not wearing helmets, they're not wearing proper reflective devices at night, and they're like the end of their own demise. And when you say anything to them, they say, well, tough.
Yeah.
And they don't even watch for pedestrians. I mean, and that's my concern. I mean,
But the fatalities with cyclists hitting people on the sidewalk in the city, absolutely. So it's a dangerous thing. It's something that we can put some information out on our social media platform. Probably the best way to reach as wide a group as possible. I know there's been some talk in government, I don't know how serious it is, but some talk about licensing people to drive on the streets with bicycles, but whether I mean, there comes a point when you over-regulate a society, so whether I support that or not, I don't know, but it is one of those things that we do need to take responsibility for our actions as responsible citizens. And if you're a person who uses a bicycle as your means of transportation, you need to take responsibility for yourself, but for others, because you can kill people just as easily in a bicycle as you can in a car in the right circumstances. So, good point. Good point.
We can't legislate common sense, and that's why
No, I agree.
Constable Pat office. He issues tickets for that kind of stuff.
To bikes too?
To bikes too, yeah.
Oh, really?
because I think I'm almost at the point where I think that's what we almost need. I hate to say it, but if you started going on a ticket writing binge, maybe it will send a message. Like, I don't always think that's the way to regulate, but I mean, some guy looked at me and said the other day, what the police could do, write me a ticket? I said, actually, if there was a police car right here, you probably would. Like, that's the apathy that's out there.
Unfortunately, what we find though, if writing tickets stopped the problem, I can assure you there'd be no speeders.
You'd be writing tickets all day.
Happy writes about 5,000 a year. But sadly, that you can't charge your way or arrest your way.
No.
Problems. There needs to be a decision made by those that are using vehicles, that are using bicycles to do so responsibly.
Thanks. Sorry, Julie. Thanks.
Are you finished this?
Yeah, the only thing I just want to add, just again to speak to the quality of the auxiliary program here in the division. We had our monthly meeting just following the last meeting, and again, we're ranked #1 in the city for the number of hours our auxiliaries commit to the community, and they pick up a lot of the stuff that we, quite frankly, just can't get to, and they really care, and they're here, and we appreciate everything that they do.
They were like that last year, the year before, they're amazing.
And you'll see them all here
And-
Saturday.
And it's here to be announced that we have, like the number of auxiliaries assigned to us, other divisions have more of them, but we still have more hours, so. It's,
Wow.
They're wonderful. I neglected to mention at the beginning, that's why I'm just interrupting. Our beloved treasurer, former treasurer, 86-year-old Doug Grigsby passed away. And I have a card here that anyone that's present here today could sign for his daughter. He's on home at her house, and she's got some good Navy friends of Doug's, and I'm helping her as well. And I also want to thank Paul and Julie, who I made cry. I did when I told Karen. The first day of the speed board, when it was out on the street, it was on Dove Street. And I did go by and check it out. It's not that big, it's great, because it didn't take up much room. But thank you very much. That was like a little tribute to Doug. And I told Karen she was very, very touched. So I'll pass this around. Please sign if you wish. Thank you. So we'll carry on. Community activities and concerns.
Other than the first thing, I had something else. Was it last Saturday? I think it was just this past Saturday. There were 2 break-in attempts on Orton Park. Now, that'll come into next month's report, I'm sure. But I just wondered, of course, the neighbors that live in the area wondered what was going on. And it's funny because it was Saturday morning around between 10 and 11 o'clock in broad daylight, and it was on a bit, relatively busy street. Orton Park is with buses and everything. And my friend, who happens to be the one in the middle, she was even home and her car was in her driveway, but both houses on either side, the people were out, and the break-ins seemed to be attempted. I don't know whether they broke in and got anything, or whether they stopped. But just wondering if there's, and then there was police presence, of course, there, and then on our street, Ladies Bridge, which is right behind Orton Park. There were police cars. I didn't see it myself. With dogs in there too. So I just wondered, is there any information that I can pass on to interested neighbors?
Just that investigation is very active right now. Our officers are diligently working on that. Those break-and-enters specifically. I can tell you that it illustrates the point that I was trying to make earlier about break-and-enters and being vigilant. There are tip-offs that somebody's home, no cars in the driveway, papers piling up. I'm not suggesting that that's what happens here.
For the day.
Yeah. And what happens is that they'll repeatedly knock, and ring the bell, and then when they put all those clues together, they feel comfortable enough to enter. They don't want to confront anybody. It's really the case. So with your car in the driveway, it illustrates that point where your 2 neighbors didn't have cars in the driveway, and that's what happens. But prevention is important in those cases, and one message to take back to your neighbors is that work together collectively as a group. Be vigilant, be aware of people that don't belong, cars that don't belong, cars that are loitering and parked in an area for a long time. It's usually a tip-off that something is going on, and if neighbors are going away, for instance, ask another neighbor that maybe has 2 cars to park 1 car in your driveway on a regular basis. Things like that, timers for lights, also are a good idea. So there's lots of little things that the community can do to protect themselves. But in those cases specifically, our officers are following up on some information that we received, and like all crime reported to us, we fully expect that one day solve it, and hopefully that day is very soon.
We have a valley behind us too.
Yeah. But we'll bring in other resources such as the K9 unit and whatever forensic. Our forensic people are second to none. I put them up against anybody in this province. They are just fantastic people, and they gather evidence for us that helps us secure convictions in the report, which is a goal here. And when we're able to do that in a timely fashion, we're able to recover property. So.
Anyone else with concerns?
Yes, well, mine's not concerned, mine's just to say that you mentioned activities, we have a lot in our community. Jonathan House, I just want to say that the community has been awesome as usual, being very visible. Also, residents are saying that officers are engaging and talking to residents. The officers are, which they really enjoy. And also, they're doing foot patrols with our officers, our special constables, and residents just want to say they enjoy seeing you guys out there. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Sorry, I didn't know we were going. I think it was years and years and years ago, down in Blackers Park, there used to be a Marine unit station. I think the house is actually still there as you come down. And I was just wondering if there's any chance that as the weather warms up, and they get to summertime, that there's going to, at any point, be like a substation or the Marine unit will come back to Blackers Park, because I don't know if you're aware, but they're sort of connecting the waterfront along a pathway. I think from Guildwood, they've gone now down to the base of Bellamy, and at some point will be connected with Blockers Park. And since Blockers Park is really the only the only place you can park and access that, you're going to see increased activity down there. And I was just wondering if there's any resources, any chance that.
No. In short, no, it's just giving you a resource matter. A Marine unit in the summer is out on the water. We do have
but they come all the way
lifeguards
down.
in the area.
They come all the way down from the harbor.
Yeah, well, absolutely. But we do have lifeguards that work in some of the locations. I don't know if this is the one you're talking about, but we do have them in the summer. They are employees of us, but they're not themselves. But they are eyes and ears that call us when required.
And when the conservation authority puts in these plans of development, maybe this is more of a provincial or different question, but do they liaise with you to plan like the policing of it? Because obviously you've now got an entire waterfront area, basically a pathway down below.
Well, federally, we just had some of our parks made federal parks. They have been liaising with us.
So you get no extra resources or anything like that?
More with less.
But what type of, when you talk about the Marine unit being present to man that, what type of offenses are you hoping, or what?
I don't know if it's more offensive than emergencies and things like that.
Yeah.
You know, for neighbors, they've talked about kind of boat fire and things like that.
Yeah.
And just issues that are of marine nature. And I guess some of it would obviously be policing issues down there.
Because I can tell you in terms of the marine emergencies, whenever they happen, the Marine unit is quite a mobile, I know you're going to laugh at this, not so much in boats, but they have a lot of equipment that's staged and ready to go, so they'll actually drive over an area much quicker and then deploy those resources into it. I know, but I have seen that happen, and they do stage equipment in different locations. I can also tell you that the Marine unit, the lifeguards that the superintendent is referring to also have some boats and some other equipment that's made available, and they store at these different locations, like Rouge Beach, for instance, here, where there's a little hut there, and they keep a lot of that equipment in there. So the equipment is available. It's getting the officers that are trained to use that equipment to the location, and they try to do it as effectively as they can, but again, it's a big waterfront.
Well, that's why I mentioned it, if it's a new waterfront, because before that was all just slides and the water came right up to the end of the bluffs, but now it's being filled in.
And I can tell you as well, I know that the fire department has a plan in dealing with boat fires down there. I've attended a couple, and they have all the equipment that they need staged there as well. And I can also tell you that, suggest to you that if you're concerned about things like disorderly people hanging around drinking or any of those other offenses, that's something that we can help you out with. And it's again, let us know, and we can address those kind of problems that are on shore. Anything offshore is, I understand that that's really where you're.
It's also just actually the safety, because we've gone down there just as it's nice here for walks and things like that.
Yeah.
It's pretty remote, even with your telephone. You're kind of, there are people who live down the bluffs that are
you know, not favorite, but that's where they live. And you're kind of in a remote place and you're just wondering, you know, how often do you get down there, how close is it? I know you talked about lots of places.
My guys love riding along the waterfront.
Coming out, so.
I try to get them off the waterfront sometimes.
Or the horses, I don't know.
Yeah.
Is there a limit to the number of cars that any one owner, a household homeowner, can have on their property?
I think it's,
You're gonna get into municipal licensing standards, and through 311, they can actually definitely come and do inspections. Cars, for example, if there's a car that's on block, so to speak, that can't happen after a certain time, and they'll actually measure that. And if anyone wants to speak over talking, that knows better, but my understanding there'll be a certain limit for each driveway on how many cars can be there as well. Additionally, the other thing they might, would often happen, think of these houses, they're built in the 50s or 60s when people didn't drive a car or had one car. Now we have 2 or 3 cars or renting. So what do? They put in a walkway beside the driveway. In interlocking, of course, what are they doing? They're actually having the driveway again. And in many cases, there wasn't a permit or ever any application to put that in. That can be looked at through municipal licensing standards as well. Only thing is, I know you know this, but is just be careful. Don't bite off more than you can chew, because usually when they do that, they will check everyone's driveway in the area. So if you're doing it, just be prepared that, I know you do, but for everyone, that your everything is in order on your property as well.
Okay. Well, this fellow happens to have 5 cars in his driveway, 2 on the street overnight, for a total of 7, and he's got another one parked in somebody else's driveway.
Yep, so that's good to know.
But that's something that municipal licensing standards can help you with. You either call them 311 directly, or the councilor's office, they can direct you and hook you up with those resources.
Okay, licensing standards?
If you, easiest way to do it, 311. If you happen to be on the computer, I love pictures because I struggle with literacy sometimes. And it's in color. All you have to do, there's one with a tree, one with a car, one with a fence. Click on the picture, pull your information in, and that way it actually binds it to a job number or a report number. It's quite simple to do. And really, if Councilor Ainsley happens to be away today and his assistant are downtown, they would tell you they're just going to 311 anyway. Now, they would certainly advocate for you in many cases, but that's where they're going. And we've had good results with it. As I say, they are under a certain time constraint to get back to answer you.
Okay, thank you.
Any more community concerns? Yes?
Me again. I brought this up last year about the same time, and now we have even more problems that with all the wood that's been broken down and all the leftovers from the ice storm, there are many, lots and lots of wood around. And there's one person in particular, and actually the interesting coincidence, the one house that was broken into that I referred to in High Park, they burn in their backyard all the time. And I don't see it, they're on the street away from me, but the neighbor, that neighbor that was in the middle between them, is very, very troubled by that. And I keep saying to her, who's home, she tells me about it, but I'm the one that.
You can't have a chimney up in your back in Scarborough, and if you contact Toronto Fire, it really should be your neighbor that's doing it. They'll come and inspect it, either caution or charge.
Because they have a big open area, and they've collected all kinds of wood that doesn't just belong to them, it seems to have been wood in the whole neighborhood.
No, they'll come, we've seen it done many times, and they'll come and they'll lay charges if necessary.
Yeah, when the fire department's not cooking meals in their.
If that's troubled by them, they should be doing it themselves.
At any time, they can come and inspect and take that, and then advise you appropriately. Yeah.
It is, deck season is starting, deck building season, so we would like you to get you on that before they get going.
I love the fire department, I'm just kidding. But what other job issues you a pillow when you get hired?
One more issue, if I may.
Sure.
Would anybody like me to spell Peter's name?
My house is burning down. I love them, I really do. Yes, what?
The one other thing, I just wanted, as a follow-up from that, the smoking pot, at the end of Plover, in our neighborhood, apparently there hasn't been much, it hasn't been obvious for a while, but, the person that originally reported it was going by with two other friends who have dogs, and she noticed that they were there in the same location again, and so, but they were, and this SUV that we were driving was there. They don't actually do it on the street, they do it down into the valley, but, or into the ravine, but that's where the car gets parked. So she didn't have her cell phone, but her neighbor did. So she asked quickly, there was the person that she was walking with, could I borrow your cell phone? And she held the cell phone up as if she was taking a picture of what was happening. And the guys, the young men, hightailed it into the car and sped off. And she's spoken to the people since that live in that general corner, and they haven't seen that car for a while. So I think,
Where's this at?
Plover, it's the Botany Hill, and then Plover is a little dead end that comes off at the end. And then it goes walks down into the valley or into the ravines, and then, so
I can put it on our board there for the guys to ride by on their bikes.
Yeah, because it's actually, they're not doing it on the street, they're actually down below, but that's where a lot of people in the neighborhood walk their dogs. Thank you.
Susan, I did want to mention, just very briefly back on the fire thing, you're certainly more than welcome to call in, and it's highly unlikely they would go to a trial, but there has to be a complaint of some sort. So if you're the one that phones in, you would be potentially the one going to testify.
Well, that's what
So
my
it'd be
neighbor's afraid of.
it'd be fair for the person that's more concerned with it to phone in.
I know, but she lives alone, and she's kind of concerned, there'd be a repercussion of behavior.
Jay?
Yeah, I'm happy to report that TTC is now, parking their buses at the GO station. So that's cleared that road. But the downside is there's a huge pothole. And I'm not sure who to call. I just
311.
Unless you have to go.
He uses 311 all the time.
Okay.
Sometimes just to talk.
I'll just read a very quick email. Councilor Ainsley, again, wasn't able to be here today. I want to pass this on. And sometimes we think things like these buses, they just magically happen. There's actually quite a bit of work. Nothing that I had to do with, but this was a response from the TTC. I won't read it all, but since first learning the community complaints received in March of this year, we've communicated to operators on the route our expectations that they should be in the Star Spray Loop while awaiting their scheduled departure time, that they are not to be stopped anywhere on Lawrence Avenue East while they wait to enter service. Also, starting with first buses departing from Star Spray Loop throughout the year, throughout the early morning AM service, our supervisors are communicating daily with the operators, advising them need to strict adherence to TTC's 3-minute idling policy. Results of your previous emails received, we were able to identify and interview 3 operators with respect to bus idling infractions under the policy and contrary to our expectations. I'm sorry that the measures taken to date have not resolved issues. Of course they have now, which is great. As such, I've asked for a report to identify buses, operators, and dwell times during the problem time frame. Any irregularities will be addressed with those involved. Also, I've made arrangements to have a route supervisor attend Star Spray Loop prior to the start of service tomorrow and during the early AM service to observe our operations. This was sent Monday, May 5th. Therefore, route supervisor will be periodically dispatched and reports reviewed to ensure compliance to our expectations and policies. Please contact me directly if area residents can provide time, date, location, loop or otherwise, or any other particulars such as bus number, observations regarding idling time to assist us greatly in dealing with operators of concern. Thank you for your assistance in this matter as well. So if anybody does need it, I have a manager for TTC, their name and email after.
Thank you. Any more concerns? Yes.
Small one. The Radio behind Scarborough Town Center, entrance number 4 between TDC, Go Platform, the Federal Building, and the Common Tower. As we call it, no maker. We're watching here. after speaking with everybody we can, apparently that property somehow belongs to Civic Center on the backside there.
It does.
That is our area that we know issues are taking place, has done in the wintertime because of the big puffy jackets, they're able to hide from that. We made some alterations to our camera systems within the entrance. There's now five high resolution face shot cameras inside that vestibule and in the wall to try and combat this issue. We're cleaning the area our own selves to try and make it an area that's not appropriate. I'm just wondering who we're gonna get the support from to go past the interlocking. My staff can't cross that line because it becomes an insurance and liability issue. I know the federal building calls RCMP and does not call police. Federals are calling PPS to let them know the issue is taking place. The condo tower beside it is rentals from the first 10 floors, so they're not calling anybody, but that's probably where they're coming from. And then, especially with the summertime training, there is a lot of extra youth for the SYRC that we have, the Civic Center being monopolized throughout the summertime, the YMCA, that's direct access into the building. So we need some support or community contact to try and get that lighting turned on at night. Like SEPTED, the Crime Prevention for Environmental Design, have those exterior pole lights turned on all night long. Because anytime after we close, our entrance lights, we leave on at a cost to ourselves to ensure that our customers are happy. Our customers are all of you, if you ride the see or go bus or come through the Civic Center. So just trying to figure out this. We've been doing everything we can other than actually buying those poles and turning them on ourselves.
City of Toronto is responsible for that area there. They routinely hold events there as well, and that's one way I know that to be true. I can tell you as well that we made those rental units that you talked about there. We've actually had some significant arrests that have come out of there recently. We also noted the same thing as my guys have been paying attention to that area in there. This is something that we can, maybe we were talking about having a meeting. This is something definitely that I would love to set up with you and actually walk the route. Maybe along with Paul, we can talk about our next steps. We'll definitely work with you to correct that, to try to address it in some way. And I can tell you from the YMCA, we've worked with their staff on a number of issues that have arisen. We obviously have some concerns with some of the events that have been held there and some of the people. But that's an ongoing issue. Private property unfortunately, and we just don't get to make all those decisions. But this is exactly one of those times that we can address a third location to better, for property.
Have you reached out to the council? The general manager of shopping center is currently in conversations with the council to see what we can have. But we've now got clusters that are out there, and I guess there's a bylaw crossover that occurred in Toronto and Scarborough amalgamated, so we've got a bylaw issue there. So they can't come on our property, but they stand on the outside. So TC, pilot project here, actually put loudspeakers of classical music within stations. So we're going to that point now. We're putting loudspeakers that play gospel music, push them off. I spend $70,000 a year to bring pay duties in every Friday and Saturday for 4 hours a night. 2 officers in there, they're patrolling around. So I'm just trying to, in the executive meeting, or come by and we'll try and figure something out.
No, absolutely. That seems to me there's a lot of work that we can do together, and we'll see where we're at at the end of that process, and we'll keep addressing until it's done.
Okay, thank you.
Like King.
Sorry, Paul, I volunteered you for a meeting, I didn't tell you.
It's never happened before, it's okay.
Oh, don't tell Paul that I'll be there tomorrow. You get lunch, Paul.
Okay.
You'll go.
Oh, the next is superintendent. You have something you
No,
want to say?
no,
Don't you do? Or, staff whatever?
No, I have nothing to add.
Sergeant Bates,
I'm good.
Detective Sergeant Johnson.
I'm good too.
You're good too.
Wow.
Wow. Okay.
They're a happy group.
PC roll.
I have nothing of value to say, however, that's not going to stop me. So. We're talking about the break-in enters before. Oh, you made fun of me when I came up the last time.
You know what?
You just wherever.
Anyway, told me you put that makeup on just to
This is a cheap prop, I tell you. If anyone opens their door, we were talking about Tracy was and Julie followed up on it about residential break-in enters. I know I mentioned this before, guys mentioned it in times past, and Julie will eventually rail about it as she sees the occurrences come in. But when one opens their door at home, they will see something called the strike plate, and it's about that big, and that's what the bolt of the door goes in. It's held in with tiny, tiny screws, and it goes nowhere. We can buy one about 3 to 5 times that size for under $10. Okay? And I've seen the videos for it. They'll reach to their tactical team, and it took a battering ram to get through it. We're not seeing a lot of battering rams these days in our commercial or our residential BAs. They're mostly shoulder force, parent or kids, maybe not the biggest ones. And what are they going to do? Go to the window? No, they're going to go next door. Approximately 80% of break-in enters are happening through the front door. They're not doing it in many cases because they are trying to work themselves through university. They're going for the easy target here. So please, again, instead of that, it's about there, and then the screws, instead of a centimeter or 2 centimeters or an inch, you're talking 3-inch screws, and a lot of them under $10. Almost guarantee, or certainly greatly reduce the chances of you being break-in entered into. And as we all know, if I can do it, anyone can do it in here. Okay, very easy done. That's it. Okay, again, $10, 80% reduction. I think that's worth the money. Like that's like an extra small Starbucks coffee. Yes.
Oh, thanks for the info. Can you please put it on Facebook?
Absolutely. We have put it on, but we'll do it again for sure. Yeah, we actually had the pictures on there. Any big box store, the one with the orange sign that runs to Home Depot, Lowe's, Walmart, any of those places, Canadian Tire, they'll have it. Okay.
I'm pretty sure you go around and install
I will install them, but only on a long weekend.
It's your turn. Oh, did anyone else have anything? I don't have anybody else on there.
Yeah.
Randy?
Well, I have to go to the front.
Yes.
No, it's your turn.
See, Cam? Certainly.
Randy's there, I know.
I'm actually going to ask Joseph Cardi to come up with a section too. I just want to say we have a lot going on in social media, on our Facebook and Twitter sites in 42 Division and all over Toronto Police. Besides what we do on social media, we have more events coming up. We have a peer-to-peer exploitation talk assembly coming up that's going to be uploaded to YouTube that anybody can watch anytime. That's happening next Friday. We're still running our social media courses or our social media introduction courses for adults and seniors, and we're doing them for teachers as well. At schools, they continue all throughout the month. I don't have a public one date yet, but they always come up. Our Twitter chats are very popular. Fraud Chat, which runs Thursday of every month at 9 p.m. These are Twitter chats, hashtag Fraud Chat. Tier Talk, which is geared towards youth. Tier stands for Teens Ending Abusive Relationship, Tier Talk. It's very popular with the youth. On our Facebook pages and our Twitter sites, our Facebook and Twitter sites, we're posting job opportunities, campaigns, traffic campaigns, safety campaigns, safety initiatives, community events, and etc. We do quite a bit. I just want, if for anybody who has any questions on frauds, any adult or youth or senior that's on Twitter, the last Thursday of every month during Fraud Chat, it's open mic. And what that basically means is every Thursday there's a topic about frauds. It could be door-to-door sales. It could be vacation scams. But the last Thursday of every month is open mic. You can ask whatever question you want regarding frauds. Credit card, debit, something that happened to you, it doesn't matter. So it's very resourceful. Okay? And I just want to say something about our CPLC meetings here. We started about 6 months ago live streaming our meetings and putting them on Twitter. We were able to track our last one, our meeting last month. And our total exposure was 2,546,000 people. Wow. So that's over 2.5 million people that are getting the message from us here today, and people that are tweeting this, and not just me tweeting or Paul or Julie, but people who are retweeting and people who retweet that. So they're also able to watch the video. So they're getting the message. Somebody asks a question, superintendent or staff sergeant answers, they're able to get the answers as well. They're able to get the information about our Facebook sites, our Twitter sites, and then go on and get the information. So it's very successful, over 2.5 million people. We just had a great event at Laurier, the 3rd annual So You Think You Can DJ. We had
up to, you heard Marilyn talk about it, up to 1,000 youth in this assembly, and it was loud, it was great. Joseph, come on up and talk, because we have two other events coming up that are very important that he forgot to mention at this event. It was very busy, but anyways. So he'll talk about those. It was a very, it was a success, so.
Well, it was awesome. I mean, Mitzi was there, so thanks for showing up, Mitzi. Staff Marrera and Fenton, Superintendent Fenton were there. Fenton was there, no. No, but it was really good. You know, Lee Campbell and Paul Rao and Robert Cairns live streamed it for us. One of the youth were saying my dad was watching, and he's like, my dad actually called us to be second place. I'm like, why did your dad make you first place? Why wouldn't he assume that? But he called it second place, and Laurier, which was a team, he came second. So, I mean, we're talking about kids who never touched a DJ set before. Some of them have, because they've been a part of the program since we created it probably 4 years ago. But these kids never really knew how to DJ, and they got up in front of almost 1,000 kids. I mean, I'm probably more nervous speaking in front of you than I am speaking in front of 1,000 kids there. But Brampton actually came out, 2 schools from Brampton. And Brampton, there was a school there, they came first. They came first. So that goes to show you that, I mean, home court advantage doesn't really count, doesn't really matter. But the students were so involved, were so engaged, and not a single incident happened. I mean, PC Rao, you were more at the back. Did you see anything other than the thunder sticks and the kids hitting each other with that? But
Nothing we couldn't handle. Yeah,
exactly. So I mean, this is our 3rd event. Not a single event happened. Not a single instance happened where any violence took place. And this is packing kids into auditorium. And the principal trusted us, Paul Ambrose from Sir Wilfrid Laurier. So now it's quest for the 4th annual, but the 3rd annual was really successful, and BMO sponsored us, Purdy's Chocolate sponsored us. All the chocolates disappeared. I didn't get one. Brandy. We even had a prize for to win chocolate for a year. I didn't win it, Brandy didn't win it, but a kid won it. But it was pretty awesome. So thank you again, Mitzi, and all the other judges that aren't here. Oh, Maria from BMO. Sorry, I didn't see you in the back there, but Maria was there too. But pleasure. It was a great event. Thank you, Randy.
Scarborough Town Center coming up?
Oh gosh, yes. So I forgot 2 major events. I forgot to announce the 43 CPLC picnic, and I forgot to announce Scarborough Town Center, which is happening on the 28th of May. Please, everyone here and everyone in the community is welcome. It starts at 6 o'clock and ends around, I guess, 7:15. The top 3 students, DJ teams, qualified to actually showcase their talent in Scarborough Town Center, May 28th, 6 to 7:30, So You Think You Can DJ Showcase. And this is just going to be a whole celebration of 43 division initiatives, 4 life initiatives, Scarborough Town Center, and along McQuaid, huge sponsor of our event. So it's just going to be another celebration in 3 weeks. So here we go again.
And if I could just add, not only were there no incidents, but in fact, when Brampton was up there, and the one girl was dancing, people from Laurier actually got up and danced along with her. Like that to me showed there's a level of cooperation and, a unifying thing there for youth that, traditionally,
I mean, music is the bridging of many things. When we work with seniors in the seniors' homes, music touches everyone in their own way, but music is the connection. So I think we're on to something here, 3 years in running. But, Susan.
Could I just ask a quick question? For those of us who haven't been to I think you could DJ.
So you can DJ.
In a brief few sentences, how do you judge these people?
So,
they must all be very good, but.
Yeah, so it's actually not just based on DJing, but mixing is definitely one where you can transition one track to another track, one song to another song. So mixing is definitely in there. Style, we always encourage the team to, we don't encourage the individual DJ. That's why we do a crew event. So the 3 to 4 kids, they have to dress alike, they have to look alike, they have to act like a team. If someone messes up, we look at that to see if the other person who wasn't DJing is saying, what are you doing? So we train them on that, saying you're not supposed to blame your team, you're supposed to uplift them. And so it's style, it's mixing, and it's crowd participation. So I mean, the crowd, they knew all along that the judges were going to judge based on the crowd's reaction. And Laurier only didn't go off to Laurier, they went off to all other 7 schools. This was 3 different school boards involved, TDSB, TCDSB, and Peel District School Board. So maybe next year we'll get some more, the Catholic School Board out in Peel, we will get Durham. I mean, there's endless opportunities, it's just, there's only 2, Randy and I, but we can go from there and work it out, but yeah. But May 28th, please do join us. There's prizes, various things. Scarborough Town Center has been really nice. They haven't allowed a youth event to happen in the last 8 years because they would come in and rush the mall and steal and various things. This is like about 8 years ago. And they took the chance with us last year. The second after the event ended, Randy and I were approached by the general manager and said, when are you guys coming back? So it's happening again on the 28th. So.
I think that you had the commitment at the school today, but we have Kyle here from Scarborough Town Center.
Oh,
and so we just
okay, awesome.
Yeah, so that's good. And
well, we're going to be over there. Awesome.
He's new.
Okay.
New.
So Steve is not there anymore, or Steve the building?
Steve Pondman, Steve Miller, the building.
Oh,
okay. Rob Force is the new general manager.
Awesome. Yes.
I'm the new Scarborough Town Center.
The new general manager was really nice. We weren't sure what the vision was, but his vision is community, just like 43 Division. So that's why it's working for us.
And last year, if you remember, we had one of the offices.
Yes, we had Inspector Bernadette. And she's not here, but maybe we'll have to figure out something.
We got somebody. We
haven't figured it out yet. One event at a time, but
we're not going to
like an hour over. So.
And we also gave out our Toronto Police DJ of the Year award today.
Yes.
That goes to a student involved in So You Think DJ program.
And he's DJing at the 43 Division picnic also.
He's going to be here this Saturday, but that student, we look at how they interact with the community, how they interact with police, how they interact with teachers, just their overall professionalism. It's not just their DJ style, it's how they interact and how they are as a person.
This has everything to do with engaging. We're just trying to figure out ways to make sure we continue to do it, and you have to keep up with it. So.
It was awesome.
Thank you.
Good job.
Awesome. And you can watch the live stream by
That's on our YouTube channel?
Yes, it is actually. It's up right now. It is up. You just have to look at the hashtag So You Think You Can DJ Finale, and you'll see it right.
It'll be posted tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay. It's my pleasure to just present a couple of pins. We have a presentation to those who volunteer with the Toronto Police Service annually, and we recognize people for their service to the community through the volunteer work that goes on in partnership with the Toronto Police Service. It's my pleasure to hand out pins, one to Cecilia and one to Jay. I opened Cecilia's just to see how many years it was. Jay, thank you very much for your work with this. It's great.
And Mother's Day baskets, do you want to say anything about that, Cecilia? About the Mother's Day?
Yes, all right. Yes, my partners here, Marilyn and Susan. Hi, Marilyn. And our new officer for crime prevention, Julie Campbell. We went over to Rosalie Hall on Tuesday morning, and the people, the directors and the girls are going to be most delighted with everything that was brought in through the community. It was just phenomenal. The blankets, the baby clothes, it's really beautiful. They've got lovely gifts that they're going to get this weekend when they depart from Rosalie Hall. Once they're leaving, there's 15 baskets went over, and there was 4, I think, containers, different containers that we took in full of clothes and everything that moms would need. And those things are all placed out in the room, and they can go shopping without having to pay any money. They go shopping and pick up what they like or require for the babies. And so I'd like to thank everyone in the community that got involved. We had lots of donations from Chartwell, Livingston Lodge Retirement Home, and the Scarborough branch of the Retired Women's Teachers, and the CPLC, and their officers, and the residents, okay? And it was just wonderful. And we learned a lot of how people are, how the women, the mothers change and become really reliable and responsible citizens as well as mothers. And the dads are also beginning to get involved. So keep up the good work. And anytime there's any officers available, we would love them just like to drop in and say hello. They need response from you. Okay, they need just to go in and just say hello, just to let them know that they have a friend, okay? Because right now, a lot of them are at the point, police officer, good Lord, let's run the other way. I said, no, that's not necessary. So please, if you've got an opportunity, drop in. And the same with the public, if you'd like to drop over or have anything you'd like to drop off there at any time in the way of clothing, by all means do. Thank you.
Great initiative, absolutely.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
I think was this the fourth year?
Oh, I think it's the fourth year, it's my third.
Yes, fourth. I think it's the fourth.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Just before we cancel off the live streaming, I'd like to mention the picnic and to tell everybody to come. Lots of different events this year. Thank you to several people, officers who got contacts. What is it, the mobile boat, they take pictures of silly things. We're having that. Lots of different things this time. So come out and enjoy yourself. Saturday, 11 to 3. We have 3 mascots coming. And that's pretty cool because we have one that's never been here before because he or she, I don't know if it's a boy or a girl.
They.
They, what did I say?
He or she.
He or she. Well, I didn't know what he is, what she or he was. Anyway, because he didn't exist or she didn't exist.
So we can park on the street, right?
Yes, in the neighborhood.
No tickets.
As long as you're not blocking a driveway or a bus shelter or no parking zones. Okay.
Okay, so that concludes our online portion of the meeting. So